Well, we're doing the Magic Flute because that's what we were booked to do. We were going to do it in the Berwaldhallen, but is that right? Say that right? Berwaldhallen, yeah. Then we had the opportunity to perform it here in the theatre here, and the minute we saw the theatre, there was no turning back. It's kind of the perfect place to put on a opera written in 1791, sort of because this was here then and it was in its heyday at that time. So it's a perfect sort of setting for an opera like this. So we're creating, I guess, a sort of tailor-made version for this setting, for this time. So we're not sort of going for a traditional opera version. But that's to say, everything Mozart wrote is in there. Not everything that Schikaneder wrote is in there. We have a narrator who is going to read. He's in place of the dialogues, so that the singers pretty much just sing. The orchestra play, but the set does what it does, which is kind of magical things with traps and flying and things. And he tells the story of the Magic Flute for us for this production. We're using a conceptual approach to storytelling, and being very, very we're using a conceptual approach to storytelling, and looking at opera as stories and songs rather than something that has existed for years. So in this production, we're using projection, sound design, video design, almost candlelight technology, straightforward singing, talking, to enhance the music and the story for an audience for today, but in a place very much from yesterday. So we've chosen to set the at least some of the elements of the costumes and the singers in the 1950s. The reason for that, in my mind, is that there's something sort of innocent about the 50s that has. So we're setting the some of the chorus and some of the characters in costumes from the 1950s. The reason I think the 50s is very similar in a way to the world of this opera and lots of Mozart operas is it has this sort of innocence about expressing your feelings that opera has, that we have maybe lost today. So in a 50s song, you can look directly into your lover's eyes and say, I love you, I'm going to be with you forever, never leave me. These days, that doesn't happen very often, but it happens all the time in opera. So there's a sort of overlap with what happens in the 50s and the way people behaved before the kind of sexual revolutions of the 60s and after the horrors of the world wars, where there was this time of excitement and massive leaps forward in technology. Around the similar time as you have this setting of this opera at the age of the Enlightenment, when the world is we're about to have the French Revolution, everything is about to change, for the better, as it turns out. And so there's an optimism and an innocence there that I think works very well with this story. The cast are taken from all over the world, in fact. There are some exceptional singers in this cast. I'm in the cast. Kate Royal from the UK is singing Pamina, an absolute superstar who's a kind of voice of a generation. Albina Shagemoritova, I think I pronounced that right, is the Queen of the Night. And if you've not heard her, then it's something you don't want to miss. She's from Russia and she was just in a production with me in Covent Garden of the Magic Flute. And when she comes on to take her bow, it takes a long time for them to stop clapping. So our narrator is Johan Rabaeus, celebrated actor of the stage in Sweden, and we're very lucky to have him. He's very busy in a production of Amadeus at the Royal Theatre, and so he's going to be with us, inventing a new character to tell the story of this opera. The conductor is Stockholm's favourite conductor, Daniel Harding, conducting the Swedish Radio Orchestra and the choir. And he and I have worked on this piece a couple of times before, and I think there's something that he does very, very... he understands the language of Mozart, and he understands this piece in a way that I think well, it certainly responds very well to players and audiences alike. And he understands the humour and something of the genius of what Mozart's trying to do. In what spirit?
Yeah.
It's a wonderful sort of collaborative spirit behind the sort of thinking of putting this together. So it's in a sense, it's a world of luxuries, as we have a superb cast, we have a world-beating venue, we have a kind of opportunity here to do something that isn't constrained by the normal constraints of a normal theatre or a normal concert hall. So we're free to do something very expressive and very honest with this piece.
Well, look, already I was excited because this is we did a project together with Andy in Lucerne, the festival last year, Magic Flute, in what was basically a concert performance. The wonderful group of singers, and then Andy, who was singing Tamina as well, he took the responsibility of making a kind of, was supposed to be just a semi-staging, a little bit of movement just to make it come alive for the audience without distracting from the music, and then it developed into something a little bit more. Magic Flute's a tricky one to do in a concert because there's all this dialogue. Magic Flute can be tricky in a concert because of all the dialogue, and so you have to work out a way to make that function. And so we worked with a narrator, and he wrote a new text, and it became something really very special. And I said, look, that's something we have to bring to Stockholm, would be perfect for Baltic Sea Festival, and we were very excited about that, and we were planning to do it in Berwaldhallen. And then out of nowhere came the opportunity to come out here and do it, and that's a whole other level. Well, look, the first Magic Flute I ever saw as a schoolboy was filmed in Drottningham. And obviously there's a big association between this theatre and the piece for many people. But it's a really magical place. There's a whole range of theatrical effects and tricks here, and things which create really what was the world of the theatre hundreds of years ago. And I think what we will have this summer is something that enjoys and revels in all the special things that this theatre has to offer, but also brings maybe something slightly unusual for Drottningham as well. It should be a happy marriage. Wonderful cast. I mean, you really wouldn't find a better cast for Magic Flute anywhere. We're lucky to have a team of fantastic singers, absolutely the highest level. It's a group, most of them are the same group that we had when we did this project a couple of years ago. So I can vouch for that. Fantastic team. Well, look, I mean, we've done a lot of opera in Berwaldhallen with the radio orchestra. Some of it purely concert, some of it with a little bit of staging here and there. And this is going to be a slightly different thing yet again. And I think it's a beautiful moment. Obviously, we will be a very small orchestra in here. That's the tradition. That's all you can fit. So a lot of our musicians were very disappointed that they can't take part. But I think it's going to be very special.